Hey, Gene.
Yep. Can you see me okay?
I can see you great. I can see you fine.
Okay. Sounds good.
Great to be.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm doing all right.
Thanks for having the time with me today.
What's that?
Thank you for spending time with me today.
Oh, yeah, not a problem.
Can I start? My first question is, where are you from? And where are you from?
Well, I live in western Kansas, but I'm originally from eastern Nebraska.
Okay. Next question is, what inspired you to be a storm chaser?
Well, when I was about, let's see, 7 or 8 years old, an EF5 tornado went past where my family lived. It was in 1964. I didn't see it, but it was frightening enough, especially seeing the damage afterwards. It passed about 5 or 6 miles west of the family farm.
Nice. And did you ever see the movie Tristan?
Yes, I saw it, yeah.
Did that inspire you at all?
No, really, I was already a storm chaser by then. I found it kind of interesting.
Nice. And what are the risks involved in storm chasing?
Say that again?
What is the risks involved in storm chasing?
Oh, I suppose the two greatest ones would be automobile accidents and lightning, probably.
Okay.
Those are probably the two highest risks. I know of only one instance where storm chasers were actually killed by a tornado. That was that 2013 one by El Reno. But there have been close calls with lightning, and storm chasers have died in automobile accidents.
Can you tell me about chasing in Tornado Alley at all?
Well, that's my favorite place to chase. Nice open country. You can see the storms a long ways away. I know the weather patterns, so for me, it's reasonably easy to predict what's going to happen after, I've chased out here now. Oh, it's getting close to 20 years.
You've been chasing for that 20-year period, correct?
Yeah, it's almost 1999 is when I started, so this year it would be 20 years.
Nice. What equipment do you use while chasing storms?
Oh, I usually have a computer with a GPS. I have my cell phone with radar on it. Beyond that, well, I have an HF dual band radio, although I don't use that a lot. And then just my cameras and video equipment. I'm sort of a minimalist. I don't tend to use a lot of equipment, but I do some live streaming, but not always. It depends a little bit.
What camera do you use, by the way? Do you mind me asking?
I use the Panasonics. I have a GX8 and a GH3. For me, they're the best combination of good quality photos and good quality video out of the same camera.
That's good. And what does a typical day of storm chasing involve?
Well, looking at the models in the morning, trying to pick a target, and once you've settled on a target, heading out there to an area reasonably close to where a person thinks that the storms are going to develop, and then waiting. And then once the storms start to develop, then the chase is on. Sometimes they don't. I've been out there, I picked a target, gone out, and absolutely nothing happened. And sometimes you get caught by surprise. Things develop more quickly than one would expect. But yeah, it's forecasting in the morning and then driving to the target and then waiting. There's a lot of waiting.
What is the difference between a spotter and a storm chaser?
Okay, a storm chaser follows storms. Storm chasers can do spotting work, but a storm spotter is usually connected to a local community, and they have an assigned position. Like in the community where I live, the spotters have certain intersections where every time a storm comes up, they're supposed to go out and set up, and they always go to the same place, where a storm chaser follows the storms.
What month is better for chasing, May or June?
Well, it depends on where.
Where you live.
Like northern Kansas, Nebraska, June would be better.
Okay.
Southern Kansas, Oklahoma, May would be better.
How important is forecasting the chasing, and what is the good benefit for good forecasting ability?
Yeah, you need it. I do know chasers who try to just use the Storm Prediction Center severe weather outlook, and these days, with all the equipment a person has, that might work. When I started chasing, the only thing I had was a weather radio and maps. So I had to forecast before I left home, and once I got out on target, there was nothing. There were no forecasts to be had. Now you can get updates all the time. So forecasting is essential, I think.
What is the hard part about many chases, and how important is a good decision making and where you're going?
Oh, very good. I think, from my perspective, the hardest part is just trying to keep an eye on the storm, watch what it's doing, and then negotiate the road network. That's the hardest part, trying to do those two things, especially alone. If there's two of us in the car, then that's much easier. One can navigate, one can watch the storm. Because a person has to make good decisions once you're on a storm, otherwise you might lose it, especially if it's a fast-moving one.
What kind of threat to you is hail?
Well, it is dangerous. You can lose a windshield, and that ends your chase. I've had a car beat up pretty badly by hail. It can do a lot of damage. At one time by Woodward, $5,000-$6,000 damage. Insurance covered it, but yeah, it's a hazard. Large hail can break out a windshield, and obviously you can't chase them. The other thing is, a lot of small hail on the road can be just as slick as snow or ice. I've seen car accidents where people have slid off the road or even rolled because of small hail on the road.
Should storm chasers be, like you, be concerned about flash flooding at all?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, always. Maybe it's more of an issue if, like when I'm in Arizona, New Mexico on the monsoon chase. But yeah, flooding is always a dangerous thing. And a person needs to watch out for that because by their nature, supercells produce very, very heavy rain in concentrated areas. So flash flooding is always a possibility.
What is your opinion on global warming and the state of the environment that you're in?
The evidence seems overwhelming that the climate is warming, and it would seem like that is human-caused. I haven't looked at that close enough, but it would seem like that's the case. The curve of the warming of the climate and the beginning of the industrial revolution and the putting of more pollutants into the air, those curves go parallel, so the evidence seems pretty strong.
Can you tell me a little bit more about El Reno 2013?
Well, I was about 2 miles south of the storm when it crossed US 81. It was a monster supercell. In some senses, a surprise. When I went out that day, I knew that there would be a significant storm, possibly a significant tornado, but what happened didn't really, wasn't really expected. That's the second very, very large tornado that I've seen. El Reno, I saw that, and then back in 2004, I was also on the Hallam tornado, which was almost as wide as the El Reno storm. The Hallam storm was 2.5, and El Reno, I think they put it at 2.6 miles wide.
Can you tell me how wide a tornado could get?
Well, I don't know if we really know. 2.6 is what we have for now. I suppose maybe even wider than that. I don't know. One of the things you got to think about is that the larger a tornado is, the less concentrated the motion is. So, I've seen, mile and a half wide wedge tornadoes that the winds were very, very weak and did very, very little damage. And then I've seen very, very narrow ones that were very strong. I don't really know. I suspect when you're talking like that 2.5 miles on Hallam or 2.6 on El Reno that you're getting close to the maximum size. That's my guess, but I really don't know.
What is the strongest wind you ever witnessed during a thunderstorm?
Strongest thunderstorm winds?
Yes.
Oh, 100, 110 miles an hour. Just straight line winds.
That's insane, isn't it?
I've been blown across the road by the winds.
Wow. Let's see. Have you ever been out of the country to storm chase before?
No, not for the purpose of storm chasing. I have seen supercells. I used to live in Africa, in southern Africa, in Botswana, and I'd seen some supercells there, and I've seen the evidence of some tornado damage, but not for the purpose of storm chasing. I think I would like to go out to Australia sometime chasing, and perhaps Argentina.
It'll be fun, I bet.
Yeah, Canada would be the easiest, obvious. Quite a few people chase in Canada, especially once you get into July or August. They have a pretty good storm season up there.
And do all supercell thunderstorms rotate?
Yes. By definition, a supercell thunderstorm is rotating, yes.
Let's see. What's the difference between a tornado watch and a warning?
Tornado watch means that conditions are right, that tornadoes could develop if storms develop. It's kind of a heads up. A warning means that either a tornado has been indicated by radar or somebody has actually seen a funnel cloud or a tornado.
How can you tell on radar if it's a tornado? It would be red, wouldn't it?
Well, you can have the signature. You can see the rotation. And then there's a thing called correlation coefficient that when a tornado is on the ground, it can show a debris signature. You can actually see that. It's important to understand that that's really hard to detect on radar because once you get beyond, say, 15, 20 miles from the radar site, the beam, because of the curvature of the Earth, the beam is higher and you can't really see well down low.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to tell. The best you can say is radar indicated. And if you see that debris signature on radar, you can pretty well figure there's a tornado there.
What's the biggest tornado shot? What is the biggest hailstone you have seen in your lifetime?
Well, about 3.5 inches, softball size.
It's still dangerous to deal with, I bet.
Oh, yeah, very much. That's the largest I've seen falling. When my car got beat up, most of the hail was golf balls, but there were some baseballs and there were some softballs in there.
What do you think about land spouts?
They can be dangerous. They're kind of pretty. Landspouts can do damage up to EF3. That's been recorded. And yet at the same time, a lot of them are pretty weak. They're hard to predict. I've seen quite a few. I've sometimes seen a storm where you have a main tornado and then off to the left will be a landspout or two.
What's the difference between that and a water spout?
Well, one's over land and one's over water. They both form in a similar way.
Can they both get that strong like an EF3 like you said, or that's not possible?
With water spouts, I don't really know. See, and the thing is, there are two kinds of water spouts, too. You can have a supercell tornado over water, and that's also called a water spout. And then you have the convection water spout, which forms in the same way that a land spout does. I have actually even seen a land spout, or what seemed to be a land spout when it began, actually transitioned to becoming a good solid supercell tornado. Rago in 2014, 2013 in Rago, Kansas, that happened.
In the United States, what state is your best opportunity to see a tornado?
Oklahoma, Kansas, probably. I think right now in the last 15 years, I think Kansas has actually had more than Oklahoma. Kansas, excuse me, Kansas, they're easier to see because you have more open country. Texas Panhandle is nice. But you have high numbers all the way from north central Texas up through Oklahoma, Kansas into south central Nebraska. That's the highest frequency area.
What's the average time of a tornado from touching the ground and letting it go back up? How long does it usually last?
Most tornadoes just last a couple minutes. The longer track tornadoes seem to cycle through about every 20 or 25 minutes. Somewhere around, if a tornado stays on the ground for its full life cycle, somewhere around 20, 25 minutes seems to be the length of the life cycle. But most tornadoes are on the ground just a few minutes.
How does it pick up speed on land? I don't understand that.
What's that?
How does it pick up speed from the land? Because of the wind.
Oh, it's the what's called the Venturi effect. When a wind is going over, it's the same thing that makes an airplane fly.
Mm-hmm.
When wind goes over a surface, it picks up speed. If it gets concentrated, it picks up speed. That's why that happens. So, to be honest, with a tornado, we're only beginning to understand how strong the winds are at the surface. Easy to measure them, say, 10 meters up, even with some of the mobile radars. But the winds right at the surface, that's been pretty hard to measure.
Is it true that hailstones get bigger when they bounce in the clouds or whatever? Is that true at all? In the atmosphere, in order to get bigger?
Well, in some senses that's the case. It depends on how strong the updraft is and whether the updraft is rotating. If an updraft is rotating, you're going to have larger hail, and then how strong it is. It keeps lofting it up, and then it falls and lofts it up, and until it reaches the point where the wind can't support it anymore, and then it falls down through.
Do all tornadoes touch the ground or no?
By definition, a tornado, the circulation is on the ground. But the condensation funnel isn't necessarily. I've seen tornadoes where there's actually no condensation funnel, but the tornado is there.
Let's see. What's the difference between wall clouds and shelf clouds?
Well, wall cloud is usually rotating. It's on the boundary between the updraft and the downdraft thunderstorm. Shelf cloud is an outflow feature. And a wall cloud is an inflow feature. It's a feature where air is flowing into the storm. A shelf cloud is an outflow feature. When a storm begins to gust out, and then the wind forces out front of the storm, you can get a shelf cloud there. So, and a shelf cloud is, miles long. A wall cloud is much smaller.
How close were you to a lightning strike before? How close are you to it?
How close have I been? Oh, probably quarter mile inside a car. But I've been driving on the road and seen lightning hit a signpost beside the road just ahead of me.
How many tornadoes do you usually see in a year?
In a year? Oh, that's hard. Last year I only saw 8 or 10. Some years I see 40 or 50. That really varies depending on the season.
Let's see. What's your favorite place to storm chase in the U.S.? I probably asked you that, but I forgot.
Oh, I suppose the Texas Panhandle or Southwest Kansas. I also, Eastern Colorado would come in a close second too. I like that.
Let's see. What is a downdraft? I forgot what you told me.
You didn't mention, or you hadn't asked that yet. Downdraft, when a storm begins to produce rain, it cools the air, So as the rain falls, the air also descends because cool air tends to be heavier than warm air in terms of its density. So you just have air descending. So a downdraft is just basically descending air.
An updraft would be an upslope air.
Well, updraft would be rising air. Yeah.
Let's see. What's the best thing about being a storm chaser yourself?
Oh, I just enjoy it. Being out, driving around, seeing storms. Storms are endlessly fascinating. They're dangerous, but they're also beautiful. Every storm is different. And yeah, I just, being on a storm, standing out there outside the car, taking pictures, just overwhelming.
Let's see. Do you, by any chance, have any advice if I ever became a storm chaser myself, how to become one?
Well, start studying forecasting. There are plenty of resources on the internet to begin to learn to forecast. That would be the most important thing. If you have a storm chaser living in your area, ask that person if you can ride along with them. Watch what they're doing, seeing what they're doing. But yeah, learn to forecast. Learn to forecast weather. Watch the weather patterns in your area where you live and learn to forecast, and then start chasing storms locally. Don't figure, okay, I haven't storm chased before, so I'm going to take off for the panhandle of Texas where I've never been before, and that's going to be my first storm chase. That's not wise. So try it locally first, and then expand out. When I started chasing, I chased only in the area I was familiar, which was in eastern Nebraska. And now I'll go all kinds of places.
Does any of your family go along with you?
They have at times. My brother-in-law was along with me in 2004 on the Hallam storm. One of my nephews has been along on storm chases a couple of times. One of my sisters wants to go, but she hasn't had the opportunity yet because she works 5 or 6 days a week.
Let's see. Do all supercells form tornadoes? I've always said
No. Probably 10%, 1 out of 10. But you do need a supercell for most tornadoes. Now, for a landspout, no. Those form in a very different way. But yeah, you do need to have a supercell to have a tornado. The storm has to be rotating, but not every rotating storm will produce a tornado.
Let's see. Do all thunderstorms produce hail?
No, it depends a little bit. Here in the United States, probably most of them do, but the hail doesn't always reach the ground. It melts before it reaches the ground. In tropical areas, no, not much hail there. There's probably a little bit in just about every thunderstorm because it's up. The cloud is up there in the cold air, but it's the thing would be whether or not it melts before it reaches the ground.
And the last question is right now, I think. Let's see. What's the strong, like EF3 rating, EF5 for tornado? What's the strongest one you've seen again?
I've seen an EF5.
EF5.
Just one. And a fair number of EF4s.
Can you tell me where we went EF5 for cold?
That was, what year was that? 2011? That was the tornado that went from around Piedmont, Oklahoma, northwest of Oklahoma City, over towards Guthrie. And it wasn't a good view, really. And I have seen a couple tornadoes that if they had hit anything significant, they probably would have been EF5s. But because they didn't hit anything significant, they were only, say, EF3, EF4. I've seen quite a few EF4s. Last year I saw 2 EF3s. The Tescott tornado and then the Capital Montana tornado.
What about the Tulkan? You ever hear of that? How does that work out?
Oh, you mean on the Weather Channel? Yeah, I'm aware of it. To be honest, I don't pay much attention because I do my own forecasting. For the general public to be aware of danger, it's probably a good thing. But yeah, I don't really pay much attention to that.
Right.
That's not saying that somebody else shouldn't, but for my purposes, I don't. Yeah.
If I had to take cover for like a tornado, where would I have to do? In the basement, they say, and what else?
Well, below ground is probably the best option in most cases, and even then, you should get into, get under something so that the debris, if your house gets taken away, the debris doesn't fall on you. A storm cellar would be the best option. A small room in the center of your house is another option, especially. You don't know how weak or strong a tornado is going to be. You can't really tell by looking. Chances are, if it's an EF4 or EF5 and you're above ground, you're not going to survive. But yeah, either the small room in the center of the house, put as many walls between you as you can and the outside, or below ground, preferably a storm shelter, but a basement is a possibility too.
Where would be the most damage? Where is the most damage you have ever seen from a tornado? In what city and state?
Oh, probably Greensburg, Kansas.
Okay.
I didn't see that tornado, but I saw the damage after.
There's probably.
And then, so the EF5 damage, it would have been at that point an F5 of that tornado in Nebraska in 1964. Yeah, that's one of the things that frightened me about tornadoes, because I saw what that tornado had done. I didn't see the tornado, but I saw the damage after.
Sounds impressive, I bet.
Yeah, it was. It was, 8-inch aluminum irrigation pipe wrapped around trees, and, houses completely destroyed. It was incredible, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for...
Fortunately, only 2 people were killed, because that was back in the mid-'60s, so the warnings weren't as good as they are now.
Thanks again, Gene, for taking the time for me.
Okay, glad to do it for you, Fred.
All right, can I talk to you again on Facebook sometime when I get time again?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
All right, talk to you soon.
Okay, bye for now.
Bye.